All right, so in the world of online gaming, let's be real. Sometimes getting a license feels like you're just checking a box, right? But what if a license was way more than that? What if it was like a master key, a symbol of trust so powerful that everyone calls it the gold standard? Well, that's exactly what the Isle of Man gambling license is, and we're about to unpack why. And look, this isn't just my opinion. You hear this sentiment all over the industry. For the operators, it's this seal of approval that just opens doors. And for you, the player, it's a huge sign that you're playing somewhere that's legit, fair, and totally secure. So what's the secret sauce here? What actually makes it the gold standard? Well, that's what we're here for. We're going to break it all down for you. The powerful regulator calling the shots, the incredible benefits, what it really costs, and the whole process that, frankly, separates the serious players from everyone else. Okay, first things first. You gotta understand, a license is only as strong as the people who issue it. And for the Isle of Man, its regulator is, well, it's the absolute bedrock of its entire reputation.
Meet the Gambling Supervision Commission, or the GSC. And the first thing that should jump out at you is that date, 1962. Think about that for a second. That's decades before online gambling was even a thing. This isn't some new kid on the block. This is a true institution built on a long history of making sure games are fair, players are protected, and crime stays out.
And that history of stability, it has this huge ripple effect. The Isle of Man is known as a top-tier jurisdiction, which basically means it's trusted all over the world for its political and economic stability. It's whitelisted by major players like the OECD and, maybe most importantly for gaming, the UK Gambling Commission. Now that is a huge deal. Why? Because it lets operators advertise in the massive UK market, which is a privilege a lot of other jurisdictions just don't get. So, okay, the reputation is rock solid, we get it. But what about the practical stuff? For an operator on the ground? Well, this is where the Isle of Man license really starts to pull away from the pack.
And this right here, this is probably the single biggest selling point. See, in most places, if you want to run a casino, a sports book, and a poker room, you're looking at 3 different licenses, 3 different headaches, and 3 different piles of cash. The Isle of Man? Yeah, they do things a little differently.
I mean, just look at this list. A single license covers the whole shebang. Online casinos and slots? Yep. Sports betting and esports? Covered. Poker, bingo, live dealer games, lotteries, even financial exchanges. It's all under one roof. This all-in-one approach is a game changer. It gives operators so much flexibility, and believe me, it cuts way down on the paperwork and the headaches.
So if that incredible all-in-one coverage is pillar number 1, then pillar number 2 is something every business loves to hear about, an incredibly friendly tax regime.
Yeah, the numbers here kind of speak for themselves, don't they? Corporate income tax? 0%. Capital gains tax? Also 0. And the gambling duty? Well, first off, it's not on your total revenue. It's on your gross gaming yield, or GGY, which is basically just the bets you take in minus the winnings you pay out. And that duty is tiny, ranging from just 1.5% down to as low as 0.1%. For any operator, this is, without a doubt, a financial game changer. Okay, so you've got this amazing reputation and these incredible financial perks. You're probably thinking the application process must be a nightmare, right? And you'd be right, it's tough. But the key here is that while it's super rigorous, the path to getting that license is actually very clear and well-defined. So, let's walk through the journey. It all starts with setting up a real company right there on the Isle of Man. Then comes the fun part, preparing all the key documents, your business plan, your financials, the whole 9 yards. Once you submit all that, the GSC goes to work, doing a really deep dive on your company, your money, and the people running the show. And if you make it through that, you'll attend a final hearing before they make their decision.
And here's the really crucial takeaway. The Isle of Man requires a real physical presence. You can't just have a mailbox there. You have to incorporate an Isle of Man company. You need at least 2 directors who actually live on the island, plus a resident manager. You need a physical office, and your B2C servers have to be located there too. This is not a license for sale jurisdiction. They want real, accountable businesses on their turf.
So, how long does all this take? Well, once you get your complete application in, the GSC is pretty quick. They aim for a 10 to 12-week turnaround. But the whole end-to-end process, from starting your company to getting that final yes or no, you're usually looking at something between 3 and 6 months. It's not instant, but for a process this thorough, it's actually pretty efficient. All right, let's get to the question everyone's thinking about. What's the price tag for all this prestige? The fees are definitely not cheap, but you have to look at them next to those huge financial rewards we talked about.
First up, you've got the application fee. It's a one-time, non-refundable payment of £5,250. That's basically the cost to get your application in the pile and have the GSC start their deep dive review.
Then you have your main ongoing cost. For a full license, you're looking at an annual fee of £36,750. It's a serious investment for sure, but that's what pays for that world-class regulation and everything that comes with it.
So let's just put that side by side. On one hand, you have the cost, that application fee and the annual fee. But on the other hand, you have the rewards, 0% corporate tax, 0% capital gains tax, and that super low duty on your GGI. You don't have to be a math genius to see that for a successful business, the long-term tax savings are set up to be way, way bigger than the fees.
Okay, so you've done it. You've jumped through the hoops, you've paid the fees, and you've got that shiny new license in your hand. Now what? What does this actually let you do? Well, this is the payoff.
First off, stability. This isn't some permit you have to renew every 12 months. An Isle of Man license is good for a full 5 years. That gives operators a nice, long, stable runway to build their business without constantly looking over their shoulder.
But hey, it's not just about being stable and old school. This place is also incredibly forward-thinking. I mean, let's talk about crypto and digital assets. A lot of regulators are still trying to figure out what to do with them. The Isle of Man, they've been on board since way back in 2017. They allow operators to use crypto for everything. Deposits, bets, withdrawals. That is a huge advantage in today's gaming world.
When you boil it all down, this license is basically a passport to the entire global iGaming world. It gets you in the door with the best banks and payment processors, the ones that won't even talk to operators from sketchy jurisdictions. It gives you instant credibility with top game suppliers, with potential partners, with investors. Simply put, it gets you a seat at the big kids' table.
Which really leads us to the big question, doesn't it? When you combine that old-school, decades-long commitment to stability and protecting players with a super modern, flexible attitude towards tech and business, have they actually created the perfect blueprint for the future of global gaming regulation? It's a really high bar to clear, but it's hard to argue that they haven't set the gold standard.